Hello everyone, and thank you to be here for a new tutorial of OTBIOLAB software. For all the people who are quite new to this kind of format, my name is Fabio, and I'm a software developer in OTB Elettronica. And for all the other people who already know me, it's nice to have you back here. And so, probably you already know, but this is a second tutorial. There was a first one. I will leave you the link in the description. In the first tutorial, we saw how to use Python and Matlab components, how to install the necessary tools and instruments to use in the software, these kind of tools, and how to create a new processing, how to update it through the text editor. So let's start back from where we arrived at the previous tutorial. And obviously for all the people who didn't follow that kind of tutorial, my advice is to follow it, to watch it, just to have a sort of continuity in the concept that we will look today. I will open my classic file. Okay, and obviously if you remember, here is where we find our custom processing. Here we have our tutorial processing with our parameter that we added. So now I want to show you an additional tool that is called Graph Editor. What is Graph Editor? Basically, all the processing that we see here, that if you remember, these are the default custom processing that we developed here in our company, and this is, for example, one of the custom processing that we created together. If you create all this processing with the same kind of structure, if you remember when we create a new one, there is a sort of template that is used to run some elaboration by interacting with the main tab of our software, so by selecting some track, for example, and then by clicking the run button and so on. So if you respect this kind of feature, let me just, let me open, for example, our tutorial processing. For structure, I mean, for example, in my code editor, a structure like this one, where you can see a load data function and a write data function. For all the processing that are realized in this way, you can create a chain of processing. So processing are executed following a specific chain, a specific path, and obtaining a common result. Why it should be useful? Because if you do the same step every time, you can merge your processing and create a unique processing with the steps specified by the chain you insert in this kind of editor. So let me do a simple example. Here, let me show you this menu. Here are the same filters, category filters that we saw together that you can use to, for example, filtering some processing. And here you have all of your list with the tutorial processing. So for example, one of the classic processing that we, the normally chain of processing that we normally do here in our company is the quality signal evaluation. So we do a high pass filter at 0.1 Hz normally, and then we do an RMS of the signal. So if this is a classic processing chain that you do, you can merge this kind of steps. So you can see here now I've added one processing that is filter Python. We can see here this kind of visualization. So we described the step 0 with its own description and so on. Then you can close just by clicking on it and then click back again. And then you can also do, for example, here there is an RMS Matlab, but now just keeping the same language. So here you can see the different step of your processing. Here we can add, for example, tutorial merge processing and the category. Let's add the tutorial one, the classic one that we already created before. I can create merge, and so now if we are able to find this kind of new processing here. So just let's go back, or just give it a look. If you click now the tutorial, we find the tutorial processing and the tutorial merge processing. Now I want to focus our attention on this new kind of processing. Here probably we have to refresh. Exactly. Here you can find tutorial merge processing. You can see that the tutorial filter is working. And now give it a look to how seems to be the visualization right now. You have multiple steps. So step 0, step 1, where you can see the filter Python, the RMS Python. Here there is a description of how it works, so I already know it, but if you don't, just give it a look. So here you can add a high pass, here I can add 0.1. Oh yes, sorry, this is quite common. Let me update it through the editor, so we also can give it a look to the editor function. Here you see that there are multiple tabs for each step, so you have a tab for step 0 and a tab for step 1. So I want to change, for example, this one. Here there are the available values. I just insert high pass, and I also obviously insert the 0.1. In that case will be used just this one, and then I can obviously click the save button, and so here in my list I will find exactly the same parameter. Now I can update also in this kind of situation. So just let me close, let's just select one and run our processing chain. Okay, now it's finished. Here you can see in the title there are the different steps, so the RMS and the filter. Now let's just visualize it. Okay, and here there is the high pass filter followed by an RMS. I just forgot one thing about the graph editor. Let me open it back. Now if we give it a look to the tutorial merge processing, so you can use it obviously again to keep going with the chain. If you click on it, you will see the different steps, so the filter Python and the RMS Python. So just for your knowledge, now you can go on obviously. And another thing that I didn't tell you is that you can also merge Python with Matlab functionalities. So the only mandatory thing is that each step must be in the same language, but different steps can be in different language. So now if you have your Matlab own routines that you want to add, for example, let me check. I don't know, for example, you want to add an FFT Matlab at the end, you can merge it. So obviously I can add tutorial merge processing 2 tutorial. You can add obviously here, so we are able to find our find here. Obviously you can keep going, but this is just that I want to show you how it changes the chain. Now we can close, obviously we can refresh it, and now we can find tutorial merge processing 2, and here 2, sorry. And here you can find exactly the same step with a step 2 with the language that is Matlab. Now let's see how it changes. You can do, for example, by clicking obviously our code editor, and here you can find the 3 step. Give it a look in how it seems. The Matlab step is quite different from the point of view of the text editor, just to differentiate it, but the concept is exactly the same. There is a description, there is a category, there is a parameter section, that it works exactly in the same way that we already saw together. So that's it more or less about the chain. I want to show you, well, let's delete someone, so we can also see the delete function. With this button you can delete the processing. Let's delete also the tutorial merge processing. I can also tell you why, because we already added it in the default processing. There is the one that is called, let me say, probably I have here exactly signals quality Python, and it's exactly the same processing that we already did. So now I want to show you a quite different thing. So we saw until now all the aspects that allow you to change, update, create your code inside the software. But as we saw together, the text editor is quite cool, but it has limited functionalities. So I know that the main part of our customer and the researcher want to use their own IDE, like Spider or PyCharm or Matlab, obviously. So how you can do it? It can be done, obviously. So the only thing that you have to do, for example, let's create a new processing that can be called tutorial processing. It's always in our, we have our tutorial category, description, processing development through IDE tutorial. Let's add it in Python. I just write, I just digit the insert button. Okay, so here we will be able to find our tutorial ID processing. Now, what I want you to show what I want to show is, let me refresh just a little bit. Sorry, I just misclicked. Okay, so here is our, obviously, our visualization. Now, my suggestion to use your own ID, I suggest you to click the export processing. So just, okay. Now, for example, I just selected and here choose the folder. Okay, now if I go in my desktop, you will be able to find exactly the processing we created together. Now, if I open my software for the development, for example, I use Spider normally, so I can just show you that you can obviously open this kind of project inside the software. So I just select my tutorial ID, I select the step folder, and here I'm able to find exactly my files. This is exactly the same file that we already see in the editor, but now here I have all the debug functionalities that I want to use for the debugging. Now let's see what's happening. For example, I insert a breakpoint right here and make it start button. Okay, I'm exactly here. Now if I try to load what is called the tracks, you will see that I'm able to debug, but obviously the tracks are empty because these tracks need to be taken by the software. So stop the debug, going in the back software. If you select, for example, this track, obviously if you run it, the processing will be executed. But I want to take this section to be loaded in my IDE, in my software for the development. So I click exactly this button, export signal button. If I click, okay, now if we go back in our software, I'm just going through the debug, and now as you can see, we are able to debug the software, load the data, because we have exported the signals and we are using exactly the signals that you choose in the software. In this way, you can obviously change, update, debug it right here. Here you can do whatever you want, and then when you are ready, you can save all your changes, and then I've just closed the software, and then I can bring it back to my list. So as first thing that you want to do, this is, let me say, the first version of this processing. I have to remove it, and then with this button I can import it back. I can select my folder. Procedure complete. If you can find your new processing, click the refresh button. It's just a warning message. Remember that the refresh button is here. So here you have your tutorial ID processing. And that's it. So with this tutorial, this series of tutorial is ended. I hope that this will be helpful for you and for your job. And obviously write to me if you have some problem or if you have some additional explanation. There is also the user manual that gives you a lot of additional information about this kind of aspect. So again, thank you to be with me during this journey, let me say, and see you in the next tutorial. Bye and have a nice day.